Welcome to the Raider Insider. I am with the head coach of Brookville Wrestling, Dave Klepfer. How you doing, Coach? And are you ready for get the season kicked off?
I am. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty excited. Got pretty good group of guys coming back. Guys that are playing football are getting a little bit of a break now to get refreshed, and just excited to get going here starting Friday.
I know you've been a Brookville Raider for a long time. I know you're a wrestler and a coach, but just how long have you been coaching?
Volunteered in the late 90s. Came on the staff in 2001 as an assistant and became a head coach in 2004.
Okay. I know you don't like to talk about the past. I know your first couple years were a big struggle, and then the last 2 or 3 years, it just seems like you put Brookville Wrestling back on the map, brought them back into the community. What do you think the major difference is from now, the last few years, than it was in the beginning when there was struggles?
Numbers and experience, I would say, is the biggest difference right now. The years we were down, had a couple down years there. We had a lot of kids. One, we didn't have a lot of kids on the team, and the kids we did have didn't have a whole lot of experience. So there was just a lot of growing pains, and I know as coaches, I'm pretty sure we all learned quite a bit from those years. And but now we're back to the point where we got a good feeder system, good junior high system, and we got guys that are putting in the extra work in the off season, doing a freestyle circuit, and had a good group in here for the whole preseason. So just like I said, numbers and experience are probably the two biggest differences between successful years and the years where we were down.
All right. You had a kind of a big coaching change this year. One of your assistants, which you don't see happen a lot, got moved up into the college ranks, up to Clarion University assistant. How have you dealt with that, and how are you replacing him, and what are you kind of doing to, obviously you're losing somebody that is going to be a college coach, so it's hard to replace, but what are you doing to revamp your coaching staff from that point?
Didn't do a whole lot, to be honest with you. We, as I said before there, we got all the right people in the right place, I feel, and it's like you said, it's impossible to replace a guy like Keith. You just miss all that knowledge he brings to the sport and to the program, and obviously that's why he's a Division I coach now. But like I said, we've got a lot of great guys in the right place. Brought in Scott Park, and he got hired at the school this year, so he is going to be putting most of his time towards the junior high this year, some of his time towards the elementary and varsity, and that'll allow us to get Coach Deloitte back up into the varsity room quite a bit more this year. But other than that, it's just really the same guys. We brought in Scott, and of course Keith went to Clarion.
All right, well, you're coming off a 20-6 season, which also seen your team take fourth at the state team duels. But on the downside, you lost pretty good 4 solid guys in Constable, Smith, Dombrowski, and Stout. How do you replace guys like that?
Staying steady with the youth program, and the 9th grade group we have coming up this year is not a huge numbers, but pretty exceptional athletes. I don't know if you can replace the wins and stuff like that. The leadership, I think, is going to be hard. I'm anxious to see who picks up the slack on the leadership this year, because losing guys like Logan and Trey and Brett, Tyler, even Jake Selesky, those guys are all they were all good to our program. Had very successful careers and provided a lot of leadership last year. So that's probably the thing that worries me the most this year, is who's going to step up and take over that role, because it's been the same guys for the last few years. So.
Not that you had your whole team in the room practicing or anything yet, with all the other sports going on, but as any good coach, he kind of looks through the program, kind of guesses what he's going to have brought up. Have you thought about or set any expectations or goals for your team yet, or are you kind of going to wait for the first couple weeks of practice to see where everybody pans out and how things go and see what your numbers are like?
Well, I I learned there a few years back when we had some down years that setting goals and making predictions is probably not the something a head coach should be doing. I think the kids all have their own personal goals, and if they all do their job to reach those goals, team-wise, we should do okay. But like I said, we got a good group of young kids coming back. I think just 2 seniors, maybe a third one that first-year kid that just come out. But just pretty excited to get going. We got, like I said, a pretty young team, and I know a good bit of those have their own individual goals, but team-wise, every year we're trying to win the district and see what happens past that.
All right. Well, I know you have some good guys returning. We don't have time to talk about them all, but I'd like to talk about a few of them. We'll start with Brock Zoccaro, who obviously is your most decorated wrestler. He's coming off a 7th-place finish at PIAAs. Some people thought maybe he could do a little better. I know he definitely thought. I talked to him earlier today. He definitely thought he could do a little better. What has he been doing that you know of to prepare himself for a state run of the title? And do you think he's ready for a challenge, maybe to win a state title this year?
I think so. I mean, it's definitely not an easy task, but he's one of those guys that puts in the extra work. He needed to get stronger over the summer. He said he lifted weights quite a bit. He spends quite a bit of time on the mat, so the wrestling part of it, we feel like we're right there with the best guys, but we knew coming in that the big thing was the strength, and time will tell. He's definitely got it in him. I don't feel like last year was a disappointment. I think anytime you're a sophomore and you get to the state tournament and get a medal around your neck, that's a pretty good year. But I know it's not as high as he had hoped, and so we'll see. Time will tell. I'm excited to get going. That's for sure.
All right, well, you had a freshman last year. Dalton Zimmerman become the first Brookville Raider wrestler in the history of the program to qualify for the state tournament. What are you expecting to see out of him this year, considering that was such a big, being Brookville wrestling, there's a good historian. There's been a lot of good wrestlers come through this program, and him being the first freshman to ever do it. I mean, do you think he's going to build on that, kind of feed off of that, and move forward in his career?
I hope so. He did put together a pretty good year last year for a freshman. I was pretty close to, getting a medal around his neck too. He lost in triple overtime to the kid that placed 7th or 6th, I believe. So it's just one of those things where, he's got to come in. Nothing's a given just because our Northwest region is very tough. So I've seen a lot of kids go one year and not the next. So if he's got to come in twice as hungry this year, and if his goal is to get on that podium at Hershey, he's going to have to do a little bit more than he did last year. And I know he worked his tail off the last couple of years getting to that point. So we'll see. Time will tell.
All right, let's talk about one more of your guys, Zach Roman. Zach had a heck of a freshman year winning the district title, but then seemed to drop off a little last year. I think many thought he would have a shot at being at the state tournament and even maybe be standing on the podium, a lot of people thought. But for whatever reason, he just didn't seem to put it all together last year. Do you see him coming in this season hungry?
The few times I've seen him, he's given me that impression. I think he's a little disappointed with the way things ended last year. But he's coming off a long football season, so he's taking a little bit of a break right now, and I think his goals are a little bit different, a whole different mindset at the beginning of this wrestling season than the last wrestling season. He seems to be excited this year, where last year we weren't really sure where he stood. But anytime you come in with a good attitude at the beginning of the season, and he works pretty hard, so we're pretty excited to see what this year has in store for him. Like I said, last year I know didn't go the way he had hoped, or as the way the coaches had hoped. But he's still pretty young. He's a junior and got a lot of wrestling left. So this is a big year for him. We got to get him to the next step this year. He's been in regionals twice, won some matches down there. But if he wants to make a push for a state medal or a state title next year, we feel like this year is a real important year for him to get down to Hershey.
All right, well, now we're going to talk about some young guys. You have some pretty talented freshmen coming up, projected coming up. Let's take a minute and talk about them and the impact that you think they'll have on the season. First, we'll talk about Taylor Orts. What do you think he's been doing this summer to prepare himself for the jump from junior high to varsity, since it's such a big jump? I mean, the level of competition, the way people practice is completely different.
I'd say he's done just about everything possible. He's doing all the right things. He doesn't miss practices, preseason, freestyle, or regular season. He went to Fargo, caught himself an All-American status this summer. Anytime you go out and wrestle with the best kids on the Pennsylvania team and then wrestle the best kids in the United States, it's just experience that you cannot duplicate. There's nothing we can do in the room to get you that kind of experience, and he's just doing all the right things. So pretty excited for him. As far as the practice habits, they've changed quite a bit in the last 12 months, and I don't think it's going to be a big transition for him as far as practice goes, going from junior high to varsity. He's been through quite a few of our varsity practices. So.
Okay, you've watched Cole Aaron, as everybody else has, do some pretty special things through the years of the youth program. Do you see him continually kind of doing the same things in the high school level? I know it's a big learning curve, but, I mean, he's been pretty consistent. He's probably one of the most consistent youth wrestlers you've had through the program. I mean, do you see him kind of doing the same things at the high school level?
We sure hope so. He's got some really good workout partners. We've got some real good lightweights this year. He's a hard-working kid, very respectful, does all the right things, puts in the extra time, and if he's willing to change a little bit of his style this year and open up a little bit he's going to be a pretty tough kid to beat. He's got really good defense all the way around, so if we get him attacking legs a little bit more and get him tilting on top, he's pretty tough on top. We feel like he's going to put together a pretty good year.
All right, next kid we're going to talk about, I think he's probably one of the most underestimated wrestlers, just from listening to people talk, other wrestlers talk. Bryce Town, he's a pretty big kid. He seems like he's grew a lot through the summer. Being a 220-pound freshman, how do you think Bryce is going to handle himself wrestling upperclassmen? What do you think his strengths are as a wrestler that makes him, for some reason, he goes out there and he kind of looks like he's like the baby face assassin is what I call him. But he goes out there and he beats good kids for some reason. I mean, he's doing it somehow. What do you think about that?
He scrambles well for a big guy. Probably the best thing he has going for him, though, is he's a pretty smart wrestler. He doesn't make a ton of big mistakes, and at the heavier weights, that's usually what will cost you a win or a loss at the 220 heavyweight classes. He just doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He's very coachable, and he grew quite a bit this last summer. I think he's put on maybe 20 pounds or so. So he is, he's starting to fill into that 220-pound weight class, which we were a little concerned about coming in. But like I said, he put on a good spurt this summer. So pretty excited. He's got a pretty bright future ahead of him. Physically, he reminds me a lot of Eli when Eli was that age. Size-wise. So we're hoping he buys in and puts in the type of work that Eli Morris did, and hopefully he puts together the type of career he did.
Well, thanks, Coach. I know the people in the Raider community are looking forward to the season. We've had 2 really good seasons. We hope to continue to have a bunch of more seasons with looking at your youth program. I look forward to seeing you or talking to you throughout the season and seeing how the progress goes and seeing what you think of how the progress is. But thanks for taking your time and out of your practice and your schedule to talk to us.
Thank you.